Day 4, we're doing classifying angles. You'll see on the left side that there are 4 different angles or types of angles. I already put the definition in there for you, but I want you to underline, highlight, whatever you can, and some important things to know. So let's start with the angle bisector. It is a ray that divides an angle into 2 congruent angles. Okay? This is what was on your homework that you really didn't know. Let's draw an example. We're going to make an angle, a large angle. And then we are going to draw a line right down the middle of that. That is my angle bisector. That means that that just cut that entire angle in half. So let's say that this was 40 degrees up top. If my top angle was 40 degrees, what's the bottom part of the angle? It's going to still be 40 degrees. Because an angle bisector just tells you that each piece is the same. Now your homework, what you saw, write this down too. On your homework, you had your angle bisector, and they didn't tell you it was an angle bisector. What they did was they put these little hash marks. Those little arcs mean that they're both congruent, and that purple line is an angle bisector. All right, complementary angles. 2 angles that equal 90 degrees. Super important. 2 angles that equal 90 degrees. So let's say I have an angle here. I know it's a right angle because of my square there. And it's not saying that each piece needs to be the same, but let's say this top piece here is 60 degrees. If they're complementary, that bottom piece has to be what to make it equal to 90 degrees? What's 90 minus 60? 30. So that would mean that this is a complementary angle because both of them together add up to give me 90 degrees. You can choose whatever numbers you want. You can do 40 and 50, 10 and 80. Doesn't really matter as long as both angles add up to equal 90. I'll do the first 2. All right, now I have supplementary angles. Supplementary are 2 angles that equal 180 degrees. So if they equal 180 degrees, let's draw a straight angle. We learned the other day that a straight angle is equal to 180 degrees. And let's say that I have, I'm just going to create an angle here. Both of those angles together, let's say I have angle 1 and angle 2. They both have to add up to give me 180 degrees. So let's say that number 1 is 140 degrees. If they're supplementary, angle 2 is going to be what? 40. Good. Because 140 plus 40 gives me 180 degrees. All right, adjacent angles. Adjacent means that the angles are side by side and share a common side and vertex. Okay, so we're looking for 2 angles that are right next to each other. So let's say I've drawn this before. All right, so let's say that we can draw an angle here. Angle 1, angle 2. Both of those are adjacent angles because they are side by side. That's all that's saying. Your supplementary angles are also going to be adjacent because those 2 angles are also side by side. But adjacent angles don't have anything to do with the measures. It's just we're looking to see what's right beside it. Alright, this is where it kind of gets a little tricky. Said a linear pair. Linear pair is a pair of adjacent angles. You know, adjacent now means right beside each other. So a pair of side-by-side angles whose non-common sides are opposite rays. A linear pair is also supplementary angles. Let's say I have angle 1 and angle 2. They're side by side. They add up to 180. It's called a linear pair. I think about there's a line, there's a pair of angles. All right, your last definition, vertical angles. Vertical angles are two angles whose sides form two pairs of opposite rays. So I want you to draw a line here and a line there so they crisscross. Put some numbers in there. Vertical angles are opposite angles, okay? So what's the opposite angle of angle 1? 2. So those are vertical angles. So we can write 1 and 2 are vertical angles. So what's the vertical angle to 3? 4. And we can say 3 and 4 are vertical angles. Vertical angles will always have the same measure. You need to know that your vertical angles are going to be congruent. So if number 1 is 50 degrees, then number 2 is 50 degrees. Any questions on these definitions? I don't expect you to know them right now, but we're going to use these words so much that you have to memorize these words. You have to study them. They're part of your vocab quiz next class, or sorry, 2 classes. All right, use the diagram below. Identify the angle pairs with all names that apply. Let's start my recording. All right, let's look at angles 6 and 7. I don't want you guys to do this on your paper, but just look up here. When we're looking at these certain angles, I want you to just block out everything below it. You don't even need to look over here. 9 and 8 don't matter right now. We're only looking at this guy here and above. All right, so the angle pairs. Let's see here, 6 and 7. Are they side by side angles?
Yes.
Yes, so they're going to be adjacent. Are both angles on a straight angle? Yes, that green line that I highlighted is a straight angle, so they're going to be a linear pair. We have 2 angles on a straight angle. And because they are a linear pair, that means they add up to 180. So there are 2 angles that add up to 180, which makes them supplementary. Those are my angle measure, or my angle pairs. And now we're going to look at the bottom part of the picture, because my next question is asking me 9 and 7. All right, are those 2 angles on the same straight angle? We highlight that. No, right? They're not on the same side of that green line, so therefore they are not going to be adjacent, they're not a linear pair, they're not supplementary. They are opposite each other, right? So that means they are vertical angles. I like to abbreviate angles. That's why you see that little angle sign. If you want to write it out, go for it. Once you are done with that, you may go to lunch. Only if you come back, I'll go looking for you. We'll finish this when you guys get back. Alright, let's finish this up. We're good on this page. Alright, now here. It says, using the diagram, name a set of and for all these angles. Before we get started, let's fill in something, okay? These pictures can be confusing, so we're gonna do it together. We have to break these pictures down like piece by piece. Is that a quarter? Why was that so loud? So is this mine now?
Yeah, free change. Free.
Alright. Everyone look above the yellow line, okay? Imagine everything below it is just imaginary. All angles on a straight line, Jack, are you with me? All angles on a straight line have to equal 180. Have to look at these angles here. All, like those three have to equal 180. So in your calculators, I want you to figure out that that whole thing should be 180. We already have 62, we already have 28. What's that missing angle?
Something.
Alright, what is something?
A number.
What is that number? Type it in. You could have had the answer by now. What? 180 minus 62 minus 28. What are you left with?
180, not 180.
180, because that's what a straight angle is. 180. You're welcome.
It's 90.
90, good. So this angle right here is 90 degrees. Alright, now let's look below the yellow line. It's still a straight angle, right? So that means that these two angles have to equal 180 degrees. You guys with me so far? So out of these two angles, I have 118. What's 180 minus 118? So I can find what's missing.
62.
62, good. Alright, so we filled that in. This part I don't really know yet because, oh wait, let's just go back for a second. Let me teach you guys something really quick. Complementary means two angles that add together to give us what? 90, okay? The way that we've memorized this, and I've done this since I was like in school, but it helps me, so maybe it'll help you. Look at this beginning of our word here, the CO. I can make a 9 out of my C, and I can make a 0 out of my O. Does that make sense? Do you guys see how the 90 is complementary? Isn't it pretty cool? I like it, okay? And then supplementary starts with a S.
80, right? Because the X can translate 80.
Yes! So you need, I think it's actually pretty clever. You need for supplementary two angles that add up to 180. So I can make this S an 8, which reminds me of 180. Okay? You guys absolutely have to memorize complementary means 90 degrees, supplementary means 180. If you don't know that, then it's going to be very, very difficult. Diana, you're looking like you're so lost, but it's okay. I know. It's going to get better, I promise.
Close your mind about the 98.
Huh?
Close your mind about
I know, because I'm just, it's my job. All right, so Diana, number 3, complementary angles. I need two angles that add up to what? 90, right? All right, so what two angles add up to 90? What can I use there? A and B? Someone say that? What'd you say? What'd you say?
Thanks for the answer, by the way.
Oh, yeah, the answer. Yeah, AFD.
AFB.
AFD?
B.
B, but that's only one angle. I need two angles that add up. For it to be complementary, there's two angles that add up to 90. So let's let's do AFE. This angle that's 72, that works. What's 90 minus 62? Okay, so what angle, that's 28 can I use? BFC. So those are complementary angles. They're not always going to be side by side, that's okay. I know it's confusing, it's a lot. I'm going to keep erasing so you guys can see what angles we're talking about. Alright, let's look at number 4. Sam, supplementary, two angles that add up to what?
80.
180?
Yeah, 180.
Good, 180. So I need two angles that add up to 180. Well, let's see here. Here's my straight angle. Yeah, what's 118 plus 62?
It's 80.
That's 180, so we can use those two angles. What's that, AFE?
Yeah, AFB.
AFE and DFE, good. If you wanted to use these three angles on the top side, you can do that. There's actually a few things you could do. All right, adjacent means side by side. They're right beside each other. You could pick any two angles. It doesn't add up to anything. So let's do CFD, like this one here. What's next to that purple angle? What'd you say?
Yeah.
DFE or EFD, either way. You can flip them. Okay? Yep, that's the middle, or the vertex. Alright, vertical angles. Oh, I forgot to show you that too. Vertical angles, what I think about is, normally, like, this would be a vertical angle and that would be a vertical angle. I like to think that you can literally write the word vertical, right? You can literally write the word angle. You guys see that?
Wow.
Like the B. This is how I got through life. I just make up things to remember. You guys don't do this. What is it called? A mnemonic device? You guys don't do these with like everything? Like how do you remember something? I remember my address because the first two numbers add up to my third number, and if I subtract them, they give me my fourth number. Does that make sense? It just makes sense. I'm like, okay, because I've sent stuff to my neighbor's house all the time, so now I don't mess it up. I know what it is.
See, I remember my address because I lived there.
Well, thanks, Sam. I needed that. But sometimes the numbers get confusing. They're not as easy. All right, vertical angles. We said that this guy was 62. So that means that this angle that's 62 is vertical to that one because those are equal. So my vertical angles are AFE and CFD. And lastly, a linear pair. Your linear pairs mean that it is a straight angle. We need two angles on the straight angle. So let's see here. Here's my line. You can choose this angle, like the 62 and the 118, that'll work. Or you could do CFD, DFE, as long as there's two angles that are on the straight angle. That's a linear pair. So So I'm gonna do AFE, we use that one a lot, and DFE. Just think linear pair, we need a pair of angles that form a line. Where they're sitting on the line. All right, so this part I think we could do with Desmos. Do you guys notice how my x's go together, my y's go together?
Yes.
My x's are vertical angles, so they are going to be equal to each other. Okay, so in order to find out what x and y is, we have to do 3x plus 20 is equal to 5x minus 50. You can do this in Desmos. If you want to do it by hand, you can. If you have Desmos on your phone, go ahead and get it out. For the sake of time, I'm going to do the work up here. We only have a few minutes.
Well,
Yeah, no, I don't recommend taking your laptop out. Literally have like 8 minutes left. If you guys have the app, you can use the app.
I feel like that.
You should get 35 for your X. So someone grab your calculator. If we plug in 35 for X, what's 3 times 35 plus 20? What do we get for that angle? This yellow angle right here.
125.
You get 125, good. So Sydney, if this is 125, my other vertical angle is going to be what? They're going to be equal.
Okay, so one.
They're still 125. Okay, now Sydney, if you look at my linear pair here, if this is 125, what is my y? They have to add up to 180. So what are we going to do? Well, you're going to take 180 and you're going to subtract 125. What do you get?
55.
55? So if this is 55, what's my bottom angle?
55.
Good. Does that make sense?
How do you get 65?
We did 180 minus 125 because if you look at this, if you look at just half of your picture here, it's on a straight angle. So that means that these two have to equal 180. And the bottom two have to equal 180. But we also know that vertical angles are equal. I'm going to skip this one for the sake of time. Look at number 10. It says the measures A and B are complements. What does this mean? Two angles that add up to what? 90 degrees. Do we see why we need to know what those words mean? They don't always tell you what it's going to be. If you know that complementary means 90 degrees, then you're good. So that means you have two angles. This is angle A, this is angle B. It said angle A was 5x plus 8, and angle B was x plus 4. They're both going to equal what? They're both going to equal 90. 5x plus 8 plus 8 plus x plus 4 is equal to 90. You can type that right into Desmos, and you should get x is equal to 13. Sorry I'm going so fast, I just want to make sure that you guys get this last little bit. So you're not going to be able to solve everything, but I at least want you to know how to do it. All right, so how would I find the measures of angle A and the measure of angle B? What do I do with that 13? Plug it in. What's 5 times 13 plus 8? 73. Okay, so to find angle B, you can do it two ways. Plug in 13, 13 plus 4. Or you could do 90 minus 73, and you should get 17 degrees. We're not gonna do number 11, but it tells you that A and B are supplement. So that's two angles that add up to what? 180. When you do the same thing, you'll make it equal to 180. Wait, don't put it away yet. There's still one more page of notes. Okay, I have to show you this, okay? This is very important. Turn to the very back page. This is about angle bisectors. That was our first definition. It says that QS is an angle bisector. Okay, that means that both of these angles are going to be equal. So if this bottom angle here is 22, what's my top angle? 22. Good. So it asks you, what is the measure of PQS? Well, you just told me it's 22. What is the measure of PQR, which is the entire thing? No. This is 22 and that's 22. So my answer is 44. Whenever they say it's an angle bisector, you have to know that part, okay? Hold on. All right, last one. Okay, it does not tell you that QS is a bisector, but we know it because of these little arcs here. So if this bottom is 91, what's the top? 91. So they ask for PQS, it's 91 degrees. They ask for SQR, it's 91 degrees. Just make sure you're reading what they ask you to do. Now we're done. All right, the last problem was also very similar. Okay, it says that BD is the angle bisector, so therefore I know that those two expressions will be equal to each other. And you guys have a good weekend. Do homework day 4. It is the most important one. Ask me questions if you need to, or remind, because your quiz is next class. Okay? Hold on, Sam.